What's up, everybody? What's going on? What I'm gonna do is expose the masses, and I'm on Rumble right now. And so you can go to rumble.com, hit search, go to your preps, and we're getting ready to expose FEMA and the global agenda. All right, so let's watch. I'm only gonna show 19 minutes of it because this is like 56 minutes and 40 seconds. It's about like an hour video, and I'm not going in.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting interview here on Brighteon Conversations. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon.com, the free speech alternative to YouTube. And the interview that you are about to hear would definitely be banned on YouTube immediately. This is going to be one of the most
What
interesting
they're
interviews
trying
you've
to
heard
do
all
is
year.
depopulate.
Celeste Solum joins us. She was just interviewed by Dave Hodges. In fact, she's a former FEMA operator. No, maybe that's not the right term. A FEMA employee planner
This whole
and worked for FEMA for a long
coronavirus is a
time. She
bioweapon.
knows the
They're
real
trying to
plan
block the
to
sun.
enslave America, to
So anyway,
overthrow
I'm
America,
gonna shut it
and the
right
role
now.
that FEMA is going to play in that process, including engineered food shortages, mass starvation, FEMA camps, the whole deal. So she joins us right now, Celeste. Thank you for joining us. Your website, we'll put it on the screen, is shepherdsheart.life. And I appreciate you joining me today. It's great to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you so much. I have seen your interviews on Brighteon.com. I actually watch Brighteon. That's my source, for videos now. I keep seeing you. I had to invite you because your information was so intriguing and so alarming at the same time. To begin, could you give people just a little background of your history with FEMA? Because you work for FEMA, you know how to work. Tell us a little bit about yourself for our viewers.
So basically, I was working in environmental medicine, but I wanted to do some volunteer work because I do believe that we should all give back to our country. And I started out with the cross. And to be honest, they wanted me to sign this 30-page contract that was violated my personal worldview. And so I said, scratch them off my list. And I went to emergency management. And they said that I could pray with people during a disaster. I could help them. I could actually be a person, a human. And so I said, this is where I'll land. So I started as a volunteer and I worked my way up the ladder.
And then did you eventually then work in a FEMA office
Oh,
and
yeah.
take on various roles? Or what all did you end up doing?
Pretty much my specialty was planning. My shame was starting to put the information and the templates together that would later become the databases that we're all fighting right now.
And was it in this process then that you began to see some nefarious agenda behind FEMA, or what alerted you to things that you didn't expect to see?
Oh, actually, when I went to work for them, I was awake. My dad worked for naval warfare. And when I was 5 years old, he looked me in the eye and he said, this is going to happen on your watch. You need to prepare. And so I've known and I've prepared since I was 5. And actually, when I was at FEMA, I was actually a source of Steve Quayle's, and I was getting him information of what was going on in the inside.
Wow. Okay. Steve Quayle is a great patriot, and of course, we participated and promoted his work and his lecture series and so on. In fact, you've been one of the speakers at some of his events before, as I have as well. Steve is greatly respected. He's been doing this for I don't know how many decades, but he was way ahead of the curve as well. So you were one of his sources. That's fascinating.
Yes.
So in your experience, Celeste, at FEMA, then at what point did you begin to see some really questionable things where you realized that FEMA wasn't just about helping people overcome disasters, but rather about, perhaps at some point planning to enslave people?
So basically, building up to 9/11, it got very militaristic. Before we would brainstorm, work on each other's projects, we kind of acted like a family. Somebody moved, we help them move, that type of thing. Leading up to 9/11, it really changed the atmosphere. It was very disciplined, very military-like, higher security. And the closer to 9/11 we got, the more intense that got.
So you were at FEMA during the 9/11 attacks then?
Yes, actually, I worked the day of 9/11 all day. It was a really long day.
And how did things change after 9/11? Because, we know that elements of 9/11 were, of course, engineered and allowed to happen. Building 7 was demolished on purpose. We know all that. Our audience knows that. And it was used to bring in, expansion of the Patriot Act and domestic surveillance that Obama used to spy on Trump and all those things. What did you see culturally inside FEMA as changes immediately after 9/11?
So they were writing on the patriotism of the people, and a lot of people didn't realize that the day after this huge, like thousands and thousands of pages of tapping into the getting Americans to volunteer, but that was really a cover for slavery, enslaving the populace of the United States by sector. So each person would be federalized, if you will, kind of like what we're seeing with the federalization of the police forces. So if you were a doctor, a nurse, a veterinarian, a garbage collector, the dog catcher, the grocery clerk, the farmer, everybody in America would be federalized.
Well, we're seeing that more and more now, accelerating even under President Trump, executive orders that deny funding to local police unless they join a national database of police tracking, which is really a centralization, a federalization of police. That was a process that also took place under Obama's DOJ, under Eric Holder. Of course, he was having police departments sign settlement agreements and consent decrees to have them run by the federal government. So you must have seen all of this happening way before the rest of the world.
Yes, they were actually planning for what we are seeing unfold right now 20 years ago.
So talk about what's unfolding right now then in terms of what really is the big plan here. Because, of course, on the surface, FEMA is marketed, and even the government is marketed as your savior, your friend. They're just here to help. Oh, we're just here to help, help overcome the disaster, help with bonus checks, we're just here to help. What's the real agenda?
So the real agenda, if people go to the World Economic Forum that's held in Davos, they can see this big graphic. And if you click on the COVID-19, there's like a spike. It looks like the spike coronavirus. And on each spike is a different disruption of all of society. So basically the plan was to bring the whole world to a standstill and then inject global governance under the cover of COVID-19. This plan the first time I discovered it in January was 200 layers deep. It is now 250 layers deep and growing. And it's real time.
So talk in detail, if you would, please, Celeste, about what you think those plans entail. I mean, is this a depopulation event, or are they just trying to centralize control to keep everybody alive and productive, or are they really trying to ultimately commit genocide?
So it's interesting that you asked that, because I'm taking this series of military classes, let's say, and I just did a special report today. So basically with the COVID, we saw the first round of disruption, and it will end with disabling probably 90% of the population. But the ultimate goal is depopulation.
Told you.
So with that being the goal, let me ask you this. Do you believe that the COVID-19 pandemic was engineered?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there were 2 viruses that we know of that were let loose from the Wuhan biological warfare lab. One of them was what we know now as COVID, or whatever you want to call it, the Wuhan flu, whatever, coronavirus. And the other one was something called the plant destroyer, which is an oomocyte that was found in the patient's blood that were in intensive care in China. And how I know that is the first week when coronavirus hit China, I knew, given my training, that it was going to go global. So the doctor's records were available, and all I needed to do is transfer or translate them from Chinese, which I did. So I'm reading through the doctor reports. Each one is about 25 pages. And about on page 3, it starts talking about this plant destroyer virus, an oomycete. And I go, I don't want to know about that. I want to know about coronavirus. But it went on for like 3 pages. So for 3 days, I just was focusing on coronavirus. And then I go, wait a minute, this was in the patient's blood. I need to look at this plant destroyer. And so I started to research it. And I don't know if you know, but I have an organic farm here in the Rocky Mountains. And all my trees, these are established trees. I have oranges, lemons, limes, spices. They're established. They were very productive, highly productive. All of a sudden, they started dying, and they had the signature of the plant destroyer. And so I believe that this actually kind of hit before the coronavirus hit.
Are you saying that in papers you were reading out of China that there was detected in the blood of humans a pathogen that attacks plants, but is somehow carried latently by humans? Is that accurate?
I think what happened is the patients, both of these were released. The coronavirus, the weaponized coronavirus, and the plant destroyer were released at the same time, but they got in the patient's blood. Now, did they get it from the air? Did they get it from eating plants that were slowly dying of this? I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. So, right, maybe there was dispersal, aerosolized dispersal of these viruses, and some of this just happened to be ingested by those people. Because I'm not aware of any. Then again, I'm not a virologist, but I'm not aware of any virus that could leap from plants to humans or humans to plants. I don't know. Does that exist? Have you ever heard of that before? I'm not sure on that one.
Actually, there is a site that you can go to. I would have to get it to you. It escapes my memory right now, but there is a site, and you can see what the coronavirus, the different viruses that were used to assemble it, and the different animals that it came from. There are some classified sections to that mapping, but you can glean an awful lot from that map.
I understand, and I agree. Yeah, they did combine. It's clear they combined many different elements: MERS and HIV and SARS-CoV-1 and perhaps other things as well. That's just fascinating. So, what you're describing, I want to ask you this question because, of course, there's a lot of various opinions on the validity of the coronavirus itself. Now, you may be aware I've been reporting all this time that yes, it's a very real virus, and yet the lockdowns have been weaponized and so on and so forth. And you and I don't necessarily have to agree on this. That's fine, but the spectrum is that some people in the alt media believe that there is no virus at all. Some people believe there's no such thing as a virus. That's become a prominent theory. Other people believe the virus is absolutely real and that it is really killing people, but that maybe some people also being killed by ventilators and so on. So there's a spectrum. Roughly, where do you fall on that spectrum, and what's your take on the reality? Was it an engineered bioweapon? Is it real?
See, I told you, it's talking about the bioweapons.
So yes, I believe that it is a weaponized.
Yeah, it's a
virus that
bioweapon.
was made in
I know it. I
bioweapons
told you,
lab.
California
Yes, there are
exposed
more coming.
China for the
And
bioweapons.
it
That's the
was-
coronavirus.
It
Part of it.
didn't necessarily have to have a high lethality. What they wanted was a high disability, because then as people got disabled, they would not be able to resist the global governance that they were injecting. And, people will die at different, it just depends how healthy you are, how long it will take you to die. And so
I'm glad I never take the shot. I'm glad I never take the shot.
And so and then I know for a fact that they did, even if, let's say, for the people that are coronavirus skeptics, I know that the plant destroyer did hit my farm, and it did take out my trees that were extremely healthy. They got the best of the best, and they're gone. And so, what does that bode for our food supply?
Right, right. On top of the
Stockpile some
Project
food
Scopex, the stratospheric aerosol injection
and
into
water.
the sun, block photosynthesis, and so on, so many other areas. But when you say disability, you mentioned that term twice so far. I'd like you to speak more about this disability, and it brings up the fact that we know now documented that this Wuhan coronavirus attacks neurology. And I know people personally who have lost their sense of smell permanently. Some people lost their sense of hearing. Some people are suffering brain damage. So is part of the disability an actual kind of neurological lobotomy to where people can't even process anymore? They can't even think to resist? Is that part of it?
Yeah, so it is a biological, chemical neuroweapon. And I just filmed a breaking news story giving the evidence of that with clips from the people that head that up in their own words.
Is that something you're releasing as a video, or how could people see that?
Yes, it will be on my Patreon site. I'm going to make it public on YouTube, and I will also be putting the transcript so that people can have that and share with their friends and their family. I would assume it will be up sometime later today.
Okay, make sure you launch a Brighteon channel too, because YouTube will get you sooner or later. I'm surprised Patreon hasn't banned you yet as well. I'm sure that's coming.
Yeah, we're actually already there. They have decided that the only lives and creators that matter are Black lives. And even though I work very hard on, and give my patrons a lot of content,
That's kind of fucked
they
up.
are not happy with that. So we are going to be joining the internet refugees.
Well, welcome to the refugee camp of the internet. But our camps are actually friendly places versus the FEMA camps that are coming for the masses. Give us a description of what this is going to look like as the food supply creators are everyday Americans. I mean, remember with the thousands of cars lining up for the food banks back in March and April? Are we going to have like massive refugees of millions of Americans streaming into the FEMA camps voluntarily to say, feed me and I'll agree to whatever? Is that what it's going to look like? I mean, you tell me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here.
So basically, there were several objectives after Hurricane Katrina. And one of those was a bill that was spawned after Hurricane Katrina to establish public reception centers at your local Walmart or whatever large facility. It could be Costco, whatever. And it was set up in case of a nuclear event, but it could be any disaster. It could be a pathogen, it could be an earthquake, it could be a hurricane. And people would go, they're conditioned to go. Look, if they've already got people conditioned to stand outside of, like our Costco had SWAT team people. They put pallets to block the door, so you had to go single file in. You're required to wear a mask, and people were like lined up around Costco, so you're already conditioned to do that. Like it will be a brainstem reaction that when this happens, the next wave hits, that people will be starving. The food supply is going down. Last August, I warned my followers that it was the first year of famine, and everybody kind of looked at me like, "Oh, you've got a screw loose. We can go to the store. We can get anything we want." And I said, well, the UN just put out a report that they wanted to sell food by the 1/1000th of a calorie. And DARPA, which is the Black Ops military sector, wants to sell food by the molecule. So after this next lockdown that we are expecting, I would say within probably 8 weeks, your food supply is going to evaporate, and they want to change your behavior. And they're right now, you've got a little bit of freedom. Get what food supplies you can, get what seeds you can, because what you have when you go into that lockdown is what you're going to be having unless you completely kowtow to the global agenda.
You are absolutely correct about that. I've been growing potatoes, by the way, and talking to my mom on the phone. She's given me all the best tips and wisdom about growing potatoes because she grew potatoes. Her mom taught her and so on. And it's passed down generation to generation how to be self-reliant. I've hatched like 40 chickens this year. They're going to be laying eggs pretty soon. So I know I'll have at least eggs and potatoes. Like that at least I'm not going to starve, right? But the average American is setting themselves up for starvation. They've only got a few days supply of food. And you even said
That's why
during
you gotta be
the
a
Dave
prepper. That's
Hines
why you gotta
interview, no, I'm
stop
sorry, it was
prepping.
Dave that said this,
Stop
that he
prepping.
knows
Stop
people
all
when
your
FEMA
food
came
and water.
into their house and demanded to look in their cupboards and take a survey of all their food supplies. And I know farmers in central Texas who during the big hurricane, I think it was Katrina, when there was a mass exodus across Houston and westward across central Texas, FEMA was going door to door at the farms because I know people that this happened to, and FEMA was saying, "Give us an inventory of all your animals, all your feedstocks, all your seeds, grain storage, everything." That FEMA was actually doing this. So I just want the audience to know that what you're saying here, Celeste, this is not fiction. This is confirmed through multiple sources. It's all true.
So what most people don't realize is that this actually started on October 31st, 2005. And there's something called the Terrestrial Animal Health Code. It's there's 3 volumes, 1,500 pages per volume, and basically it is how to manage the planet. And so volume 1 is the Terrestrial Animal Health Code. Then there's an aquatic code for those of you that are into fishing and aquaponics and that type of thing. And there's also a diagnostics and vaccination. But during that, so what the UN did is put out a mandate and
Oh,
said
I'm sorry.
everybody in the world needs to have traceability. At the time,
All right, I'm ending here. Sorry, I keep doing that. Well, it's a 56 minute and 40-second video. I'm gonna end it right now, and you can go to Rumble and type in TJ Preps to watch the full episode. So, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to stop all your food, water, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and remember, 2 is 1 and 1 is 9. Thank you for watching. Peace.